Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Monsters. Today I have Misty here with me from Florida.
Hello, my name is
Hi.
Misty Blue Day. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having
I
me.
know, it's so nice to meet you.
Turning inside out, I'm inside out. I'm turning inside out, I'm inside out.
All right, Misty, go ahead. I'm going to let you have the reins from here. Let's
Yeah,
start with your childhood.
yeah. So I mean, that's where it all starts, I guess.
Yes.
So I have had a really traumatic childhood growing up. My dad was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Later on down the road, which is pretty much about 4 years ago, he did pass away from cirrhosis of the liver.
Uh-huh.
So that's
Sorry.
something I always kind of knew we would get there at one point, and
Right.
no matter how prepared you can be for that, it still hurts.
Sure.
But going back to my childhood, there was a lot of abuse with my mom and my brothers and it
By your dad? Your dad.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was just really crazy. I mean, I remember there's a time when I was younger, he was drunk and we were at a park. I was on the tire swing, probably about 7 years old, and he's just fighting people like at the park. And it's funny too, because when I was a teenager, I remember him saying like, "Don't ever get in the car with people drinking and driving." And I was like, "But you've done that." Like he's
Right.
literally swerved home, and so that was just something that was normal to me. And so I've
So
all
was he a mean drunk? Like,
oh yeah.
was he nice when he was sober? And then,
Absolutely.
okay.
So sober him was the best dad in the world. He's very much like a Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what made it really complicated. That's kind of like the first start of the trauma bond.
Sure.
And
Yes.
one thing I've learned recently is that the trauma bond is kind of associated with Stockholm syndrome.
Mhm.
So when you have that amazing dad who would flip pancakes for you on Sundays and we go to Disneyland and road trips and um, then you could kind of like it'd be the polar opposite just
Right.
at any given moment. And so that also taught me to be hyper vigilant because any little shift in just the movement or how he spoke,
Right.
I knew like, okay, we're going to have a bad night.
Did he drink every day?
When he drank, yeah. So he would go through like sober stints where
See, that was my stepdad too.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it could be, weeks or months or even a couple years, and then all of a sudden out of
The ball
nowhere
drops
it's
again.
back, and then
Yeah.
there's hell.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, that just makes it so hard, especially when they're great when they're sober. And then,
Yes.
like you said, with the hypervigilance, you're just always on alert,
It
you know?
conditions you, and
Yeah.
so that's kinda where, I'm sure you've heard people say, like, if chaos is all you know, you're gonna always be attracted to chaos.
Right.
So that, of course, transferred into my relationships as an adult because,
Mm-hmm.
like, the partners I would choose were similar to that chaos and that trauma
Right.
bond and the roller coaster, and that's kinda where eventually, I had to learn how to pay attention to that because you can have so many failed relationships or abusive relationships, and you
Yeah,
have to get to the point where you do some kind of self reflection and decide,
for sure.
okay, where's my part in this? How can I break this cycle?
Right. That's tough. That is tough. I lived like that too when I was a child, and I
Hmm.
mean, isn't it funny how you remember the craziest little pieces. You forget a lot, but then you remember you remember when you're out there, you're playing and he's fighting everybody. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
just remember the craziest things.
That's true, though. There's a lot of times where you do forget stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, that is common with trauma.
right.
I think some of it can be just like part of the coping mechanism. Like
Mhm.
you dissociate during those
Right.
times. And so you're not really locking them in.
Yeah. Your
But
brain's
your body
protecting
still
you.
knows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is something that's interesting that I've experienced. And I did write a book, Garden of Blue, and I mentioned that in the book about my childhood and alcoholism because I don't drink. I'm 8 years of alcohol free,
Okay.
which I love. Thank
Congratulations.
you. It's the best thing I've ever done for myself.
Right.
Um,
Did you struggle a little bit with it?
I actually didn't. I'm very lucky that I didn't. So I would go like periods of time where I would go 6 months or even a year without drinking, and then
Right.
I drink. And I think there was just that point where when I did finally quit drinking completely, I was only drinking like maybe a glass of wine or a beer here and there. It
Okay.
was already kind of minimal. And I think I had like a hangover one day and I was just like, what am I doing? Like
Right.
this,
Like, I'm not
you
doing
know,
it
I want to
anymore.
focus on my health. And I'd already really just kind of was so sick of it anyway. And then factoring in my life and,
Sure.
my childhood, it was kind of like, why am I doing this? And um, it's also something I noticed too, that the next day, if I did drink, I would be really depressed.
Yes.
And my friendships that I had during the times when I did drink, they weren't real. And it's almost like I just, slowly had that epiphany where I was just like, this isn't good for me. And I just stopped. So that's where I'm fortunate to where I was able to just
Just
stop and I
stop.
didn't need help. And, you know, of course, once in a while, there are times where it would be nice to have an old fashioned or
Right.
like
Right.
sometimes I'll smell someone's drink. I'm like, oh, that, I did used to bartend. So I can
Yeah.
appreciate it like as a
Right.
foodie and, but I know don't ever want to go down that road again. It's not something that's ever added
Oh,
any
that's so
benefit.
smart. Did your
Yeah.
mom did your mom have any alcohol or drug issues?
No, I mean, she likes to have a drink here and there, but luckily that wasn't really an issue. It was mainly my
Your
dad
dad.
and
So
yeah.
he was physical with you
Oh
guys too?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Christmas I remember when I was young where he was chasing my mom down the highway saying he was going to kill her. And then eventually my grandma, his mother, came over and she's just this little like tiny, 5 foot
Mhm.
lady and pretty much like tucked him into bed and got him to calm down and my mom like went to one of my friend's mom's houses and that was Christmas. So like a lot of my holidays would be like that too.
Was
Um
his mom, well, your grandma, was she an enabler
I
for
think
him?
so. Like I don't it's hard I love her so it's
Yeah.
hard to say that, but yeah.
Right.
That's kind of how it works. And even my mom, I think to a certain point was I think it was when I was 18. So I have kids and I started young and
Okay.
I was pregnant at 18, had them at 19, twin boys.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was still at my parents' house. I moved out soon after, but I was still there and he started drinking again.
Oh, he was sober for a little
He
bit and
was. And
then
then I think he even threatened like to kill her, which it was just, I'm sure just, him talking or whatever.
yeah,
But I was just like, Mom, we're grown and I do not want them to have the life that I
right.
had. So what are you doing? And she kicked him out.
She did.
She did, and I remember at first he was really upset with me. Like he blamed me instead of himself.
Well, it's easy. That's
And
the easy way. Yeah.
exactly. And so we had some time where, things were hard and there was even times where he said he was going to die and he'd disappear for 2 years and come back like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Oh,
And
good Lord.
and as crazy as it sounds, I still kept my relationship with him.
Yeah.
And
Still your
that's
dad. It's hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of, just looking at that trauma bond again and really
Right.
trying to understand it. I think for me personally, a lot of my healing has come from education, self awareness, and just really trying to learn like what are attachment styles, what are trauma bonds, what is
Right.
trauma,
Right.
and just trying to figure out how to escape it because it's
To
just
try to end the generational
yes,
trauma. Yeah.
exactly. Because
Yeah.
with kids, it's like you don't want them to have the same
No.
childhood or history or past that you had.
Good for
So
your mom though, for I mean, that she finally was like, "No, you're going."
yeah.
Because you probably used to wish that when you were a kid,
Oh, of
didn't you? Like,
course.
yeah.
And the interesting thing was when he was in the hospital for cirrhosis of the liver, he's basically on his deathbed.
He had to be young,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
63.
that's young.
So, but when you have cirrhosis of the liver, at a certain point, the chemicals in your body can make you have almost like dementia because
Right.
you get like a toxic level. You
Yeah,
know that.
for sure. Yes,
I'm
yes.
like, oh, I know who I'm talking to.
Yes.
But he thought it was like he thought we were in the 90s because they try to see like where your mind's at and
Right.
ask the year and he thought Bush was the president and
Wow.
so I think he thought my mom and him were still together. So she wanted to come to the hospital. She hadn't seen him in so many years, decades.
Yeah.
Didn't want to see him, didn't want to talk to him. There's still a lot of pain there for
Sure.
her.
Of course.
And so she kind of was like in the background, like just wanted to be there for my brother and I, but also I guess maybe be there too herself. And
Maybe some closure for her.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he like called her the nickname he used to call her back in the day, which I hadn't heard in forever. And asked about her tacos because my mom's famous for her tacos,
Really?
and we were all just like crying, and
Yeah.
it was sweet because that was kind of like our last few memories, but
Yeah.
it was sweet. It wasn't
Right.
or bittersweet, I guess you could
Yeah, for
say.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. But hopefully that gave all of you a little bit of closure.
It did. It did. I mean, it was really hard to see him there, but that's just the road he took, and I'm grateful we were all there to be able to say goodbye and
Right.
to show our love, and
Yeah.
and
So your boys never really got a chance to know their grandpa,
they
or they did?
did, but there was a
Limited.
point yeah, there was a point where I had to kind of cut him off. So like one time I had a doctor's appointment and I was like, "Okay, I need you to watch them for me." And I remember I think I drank at the time, not like, like just casually. I had like a couple beers in the fridge, and I remember going in there and counting, okay, there's 4.
Yes. Right.
And I left. This is 10 a.m. And I come back and they're hidden. The bottles are empty, hidden in the trash. And I was like, hey, I'm sorry, but I can't trust you to be alone with my kids anymore. And I
Yeah.
had to cut him off. And there's also a point soon after that where he lost his place to live. I don't even remember how that happened. And he was going to go back, from Florida back to Missouri to live there. And he was on a park bench. And I
Oh,
remember being like, I'm sorry, I can't have you here.
right.
And because I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore. And so I remember
It's so
visiting
hard
him
to
at the
watch. Yeah.
yeah. And I remember visiting him at the park. I found him a little outlet that he could plug his phone in. I brought him a PB&J, and that was like right before he left to Missouri. And so
Okay.
they still kept in touch and like texting, and they call
Yeah.
each other, and
Who
you
did he
know,
live with in Missouri?
with his
His
mom and his
mom.
brother. Yeah.
Okay.
So and then eventually his mom had passed away, and he, soon after.
His brother, your uncle, was he alcoholic too?
I don't know. I mean, not like,
Not like that.
not, yeah, not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you have the twin boys.
I have a
Yeah.
daughter too.
Oh,
Yeah.
how much later did you have her?
She's 19 and they're 22. Yeah. So not too long
Oh,
after. Yeah, they're
girl,
awesome.
I don't know how you have kids that old. You were like me. I started when I was
I
18 too.
started young.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I did too, because I'm tired.
Right, right. It's like me time, right?
Well, and it's cool it's kind of cool to be close in age, because I feel like we're really connected, and
Yeah.
we kind of had to grow and heal together, because I mean, there were times where I've always been a self-abandoner, people pleaser, which I didn't know at the time, and I remember one of my boys was I started to catch on to him doing that too, just
Mm-hmm.
like self-abandoning, and I was like, and being like a doormat, and I remember being like, "Oh no, I did this all wrong. Like I have
Right.
to fix this," and having to like kind of reteach them the things that I accidentally taught them myself.
That's amazing that you recognized it though.
Yeah.
A lot of
I
people don't, they either don't recognize it or it's way later in
That's
life.
true. I'm really grateful for the self-awareness. I think it's just that's kind of where you get to that point of, just getting so sick and tired of it that you have to. And so I
Right.
have developed that self-awareness over time, and I think it's really been helpful for like my healing journey and
Yes.
being at the place that I am.
Right, right.
Yeah.
What about dad for the twins? Was he around? No.
No.
Yeah.
No, okay, so again, we kind of go through the
Yeah.
same
Yes. Yes.
He wasn't around much at all. He signed over his rights to them and everything,
Okay.
and he even went to jail, and
So that might have been a blessing that he wasn't
it was
around.
totally a
Yeah.
blessing. And I remember, I was a teen mom. My friends were, young, and
Right.
nobody else had kids. I was the only one with
And you had
kids.
twins.
Yeah,
Two boys.
mhm.
Boys are tough, I think, when they're younger. They're just crazy and
Yeah, they were
hyperactive.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember running into, someone at the grocery store, and they're like they heard that I had left their dad, and he was like, "I can't believe you do that to them." Other people would say that too, like, "Why would you wanna raise them without a dad?" And I was like, "He can be involved if he wants,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
not gonna subject them to that kinda life," because
Yeah.
he was doing shady stuff, and
Okay.
it was the best decision I could have made for them.
I'm so glad you made
Absolutely.
that being so young.
Yeah, because I can't even imagine where my life would have been if I
You
didn't.
stayed.
And
Yeah.
that was the thing too, going back to what you said earlier, I bet you wish your mom did leave him sooner. Yes, that's why I left him, because I
Right,
was like, I'm
right.
not gonna do that. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna wait till they're 18 years old
Wow.
and being like
That's
still,
amazing. Yeah. It's just
yeah.
amazing that all registered for you when you were that young.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, of course, a lot of things I had to learn the hard way, or that took me a
Same.
long time to
Yes.
learn. I'm definitely not perfect. I'm not
Right.
preaching. That's something I always like to say to people too. Like
Right.
I'm when I talk about my stuff, it's just to share so people don't feel alone, or so
Alone.
that they
Yes.
understand, like, yeah, it was hell, but there's a way to
Right.
go through it and overcome it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Resilience it's a blessing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that it's even possible. That's why these stories are so important.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And one of the big recent lessons for me is just like that victim mentality and
Mm-hmm.
understanding it. I think I had that myself a little bit. And I think there was recently a time where someone who was a friend of mine showed me that um, deeply, just that victim mentality. And I was able to see it and understand it. And that's kind of where that reflection comes in, to where I was like, wait, do I do that? Have I done that?
Mm-hmm.
And I have, but the difference is you have to see that. So breaking that victim mentality, that victim mindset, it's important, because you won't get out of that. You're never
Right.
going to elevate or outgrow
Right.
that if you're just like, oh, well, I'm the victim, or oh, this. I can say that all day long,
Right.
because next we'll
Because
talk
it's
about.
true. You
Yeah,
really were a victim. You really are a victim. So it's
absolutely.
hard to get past that.
And I could use that as an excuse
Of
to do
course.
drugs, or to be an alcoholic, or
Yep.
to, whatever. And so having someone who, she had done me wrong, and when I tried to communicate about it, I was met with, "Oh, well, you're not the only victim in this." And I was like, "Oh, okay, ding ding ding," like it made sense to me. That victim mentality also equates to a lack of accountability. And so
Yes.
yes, I'm a victim for sure, but I
Mm-hmm.
have to have accountability. And how can I break the cycle? How
Right.
can I break the generational patterns, or whatever? Like,
Yes.
we have to, like, so for me, like, especially in relationships, I got to stop chasing people who were like my dad, who brought the
Yeah. All those people you
chaos.
have to fix, right?
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And that was me. Instead of fixing my own life, I wanted to fix everyone else. I was the hero, the rescuer, the healer to
Girl, that's
everybody
way
else.
easier, right? Let's fix
Yeah,
other people. We don't have to worry about ourselves.
exactly.
No.
And
Yeah.
I finally
That's too
learned.
hard.
Yeah. I finally learned how to set a boundary, because I did not have a single boundary
Right.
ever until like recently. And that was a big deal to me, to be able to say to someone like, "Hey, you know what? I got to fix my own life." Like,
What happened and like where was the turning point for you to be able to do that?
I think it was, well, number one, I want to give a lot of credit to therapy. I've been in therapy for years. When I started going to therapy, I was in a marriage, and it was just up and down roller coaster.
Okay.
I would get like screamed at. And so with my heart issues, one of my heart issues, like, I'll go into arrhythmias. I have Wolff Parkinson White syndrome, also known as
Oh,
pre-excitement syndrome. So
yeah.
my pacemaker company would call me after I would be screamed at by my ex. And so I would sometimes react. I think there's a name for it. I can't remember, where when you push and push and push someone, and they react, and then
Right.
it's kind of like, "Oh, look at you being crazy." So
Yeah.
I go to the therapist because I'm like, I want to divorce this person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so going to the therapist, I was like, so yeah, I sometimes I just lose it. And like, I have this problem, I have a lot of trauma, and this is all my fault, and I don't want to have like another failed relationship, and what do I
Right.
do? And so the more I started going and opening up to the things that were going on, she was like, well, what's he doing? And I was like, oh. And
Right.
so eventually she's like, your reactions are a normal fight or flight response
Yes.
to a hostile environment,
Mm-hmm.
not your trauma.
And they could just keep poking
Oh,
and
yeah.
poking.
And so
Yeah.
eventually I'd come home and I'd be like, well,
Right. Right. Right.
And over time, like, I just started building more and more of that confidence and going back to myself. And so that's where it started to build, from
Okay.
there, to where okay.
That's perfect.
And so when I did end that relationship, oh my gosh, it takes your whole world and puts it upside down. And I had to reassess everything. And I was like, wait a second, this relationship and this friendship, these are all kind of similar. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
go to therapy, I continue to go, and there's even a few times where she was like, "Oh, that person just replaced your ex." That and
Mhm.
I started to really like I really just had to dissect my whole life and just
Right.
start over, and I had to cut off so many different people and friendships that I thought were forever friends,
Right.
and even, even family too, and in life in general, like boundaries are healthy.
For
And
sure.
that's something that
They're tough. I mean, you have to
yeah.
work at it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
as a people pleaser, you sound like an asshole. Am I allowed to say
Right.
that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You sound it makes you feel like a bad person, like
Right.
telling someone you love and care about. No.
Right.
And so it takes practice for sure. And when you're met with the resistance, because some people don't know how to take that. And
Yeah.
some people react. And that's also kind of like your red or green flag
Especially if they're
indicator.
not healed
Yeah. So if
or
they're
they haven't
reacting to
dealt.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, now I see what this is.
Right.
And I did have people who reacted to me just simply not abandoning myself and just saying no to certain
Mhm.
things in just extreme reactions, and to where I
Because they
had
were probably used to you kind of being like a
oh
yes girl
yeah. Oh
and just
yeah.
doing anything that they needed.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember one particular friend too, where it was just so much, and she wasn't healthy, she wasn't doing the work, and I remember her saying like, I was like, I'm going through a divorce. I had broken my ankle. I was like, I am selling my house. I was going to the hospital for a year for test or a week, sorry,
Yeah.
for testing, and I was just like, I have to help myself. I
Right.
don't have time for this right now. Please understand and respect that. And she was screaming at me like, I can't believe you'd abandon me at her worst time. It's like, you don't even hear me. You don't
Right.
even care about me.
Didn't even address
What are
anything you
you gonna help
said.
me too?
Right. Right. No,
No,
exactly.
it's like they just wanted to sit there
Yeah.
in that darkness,
Right.
because I guess it's cozy if that's all you know.
Mhm.
And I couldn't. And that can
That's
be
amazing
it
that
can be in a
yeah,
lonely place though.
for sure.
And
Yes.
that's important to know, is like that isolating period it's also
But it
temporary.
takes a turn
Yeah, because
eventually.
sometimes you wanna go back to them.
Right. Or you miss them or you just
Yeah.
miss the friendship you thought you had or that closeness. For
Yeah,
sure.
you have to grieve it, and then you have to start over in a way and find people who are in alignment with you, who have done the
Mhm.
work, and that's another thing I've done too, is making like a checklist for people. Like,
Mhm.
okay, you have accountability, you have communication skills,
Right.
like the basic foundation of like what's going to make a healthy relationship, friendship,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and as we get older, I think that we look for those things even more than we did when we
Yeah.
were younger, because it was
Mhm.
just like, oh, I'm friends with so and so, but now you're like more conscious of it and you're like, no, I need these type of people in my life
Yeah.
now.
That you
Yeah.
can grow with and
Yes.
elevate with and
Yes.
have peace and have fun and
Right.
all the good stuff.
No trauma bonds.
No, no, thank you.
Hopefully. Now,
Unsubscribe.
okay, so take us back though. I need to know about this heart stuff. What happened?
Okay.
What?
So I was born with heart issues. So I was born with the Wolff Parkinson White syndrome. So with that, there's an extra pathway in your heart that can put you in a rhythm called supraventricular tachycardia, where you're in
Yes.
the 250s. For me, I was in the 250s.
Yeah.
My heart rate was 250 beats or so per minute. And it happened all the time, my whole childhood. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times they were like, well, maybe you'll outgrow it. They didn't know what to do with me up until I was 18. And then finally they did a cardiac ablation. So they go in through the groin and they burn the cells that cause it. And mine, of
Mm-hmm.
course, was difficult. So I ended up having four.
Oh
And
gosh.
during the four, they still never fully, like 100% successfully fixed it. They kind of burned my SA node, which is what the natural pacemaker of your heart.
Yeah.
And they also potentially tore through one of my valves, my aortic valve. So now I have a tear, but being a rare disease person,
Mm-hmm.
going to the ER and stuff, at first, like they didn't notice the tear for years. And I kept going in.
Wow.
I'm like, no, they're like, oh, your rhythm's fine. I'm like, I'm not here for my rhythm. I'm here for this feeling.
Right.
And then after a
Like, how would
couple,
you feel?
like my heart was just
You
pounding.
felt, yeah.
And it was just every beat I could feel like this intense pound, just not a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Something wasn't right.
Right.
And so they would dismiss me. And then one time there was a doctor who was like, oh, well, I hear your murmur, but your heart rate's fine. You're not in SVT. Like, we're sending you home. And I was like, I've never been told I have a murmur. So they ended up doing an echo and they're like, "Oh, wow, your aortic valve has moderate to severe regurgitation." And then even still with that, the doctors locally were like, "Mm-mm, I don't want to touch you." And one doctor even said, "You're not a car. I can't just lift the hood and fix you. You're young. If you die on my table, your family's going to sue me."
Oh my
And so
God.
I was like, "Well, my quality of life sucks." I
Right.
had no energy. I was short of breath. On top of that, I still needed a pacemaker. My
Right.
heart rate would drop into the 30s. I'd stand up and it'd go to 150. And
Oh,
so I lived like that for years, just being medically gaslit.
yeah.
And I
Which is a
remember
real thing.
it
I
is.
think some people don't realize how real that is in the medical field,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
have to be your own advocate.
Yeah.
Like, it really happens.
I think because I've advocated for myself, the levels I have is why I'm still here.
Right. I
And
believe it.
that continues on and on and on. So, finally, I did get my valve repaired. I went and found a website. I think it was called like Heart Valve Journal or Patients or something like
Mhm.
that. It's like a Facebook for patients who needed their valves replaced. So I learned so much. That's how I found my doctor, who
Oh.
happened to be local and the best of the best. And he was like, "Let's fix you." So he went in.
Wow, were you like, "Oh, this is how it's supposed to be."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, "You wanna help me?"
a deep breath,
Yes,
like
I
exhale.
bet.
And so we scheduled the surgery. This was in 2011,
Okay.
and they did the open heart surgery. He was able to repair it, and that lasted me a while. And my quality of life did improve a lot, but I still had the heart rhythm issues. They
So how
didn't
old were you? 2011?
26, 27.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And so eventually my heart valve repair didn't hold up, which we knew it would. And so about 3 years ago is when I had my last open heart surgery where they did an actual replacement. So they went in, I have a tissue valve, which is nice because I don't have to take the blood thinners. I don't have the
Right.
mechanical one, and it's supposed to last me a while, which is good. And I mean, I'm able to go running all the time. Like my quality of life improved so much. Like I'm
Okay.
I'm really grateful for it. But with the pacemaker, that's a different doctor. So, you
Same
know,
doctor did the surgery both times,
no,
though?
so that's the pacemaker is an electrophysiologist. So you have to
Okay,
see
okay.
different people. And I was having a hard time finding that specialist for the pacemaker at the time. And so there was a stint where I was going to the ER a couple times a week. And they were like, "Oh, you're on drugs." They do a drug panel and it was negative. Okay, well, it's anxiety. You have kids, right? And like
Right,
they just
right.
kept gaslighting me. And it I remember finally having a heart monitor on, and I would be in the ER and wearing a sweater. They didn't know I had the 30-day heart monitor on, and they wouldn't even put me on a monitor at the hospital. So I was
What?
like, they're saying it's anxiety. I'm like, "Do you not see my scar? Like, I've had open heart surgery. I'm a cardiac patient. I have history. Put me on a monitor."
Right.
And they just would not. And eventually I finally found an electrophysiologist, and he was like, "Whoa, you need a pacemaker." I got a pacemaker. I wish I had one 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Is
Wow.
I mean, that's what makes it so frustrating is that I should have had this care a good decade ago, and so that's kind of what led me to patient advocacy and
Yeah.
becoming
Yeah.
a rare disease advocate and even going into school for it because it's so frustrating and there's so many other patients that are like me,
Yeah.
struggling with the same thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh. So, okay, so how long ago was it then since you got the pacemaker?
The
That's
pacemaker is
been
about 7 years ago, and then
okay.
the second open heart surgery was about 3 years ago. So I'm in a good place now, like, everything's being managed, which is great.
What did they say as far as like the prognosis for everything?
I mean, fortunately, like science and modern technology continues to
Right.
advance and improve. So the cool thing is, well, this valve they're saying could last about 20 years, which is awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and on top of that, they said by the time I would need another surgery, like I'd probably be able to get it without having my chest cracked open again,
Yeah.
which would be nice because that is not fun. And
I can't even
yeah.
imagine. Yeah.
And the second one was cool because they were able to use my own blood for transfusion instead
Oh.
if I needed it. So I thought that was kind of
So they
neat.
planned ahead a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the pacemaker, it's supposed to last 10 years, but it's been about 7 or 8, and
Okay.
recently they just said my battery life's at 40%, so I'm still good on that for a
Oh,
while.
and then they would just replace that
Yeah.
eventually? Okay.
Yep. So hopefully, no
And
problems.
you're in nursing school
Yeah,
getting
I just finished.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Oh, so you have to take your boards.
I am on Monday.
Are you? Oh, girl?
I know, I didn't mean to schedule it right after my trip to Nashville,
Yeah.
but, that's what I do, I
Yeah.
guess.
It's not that bad. Just make sure you do all those review questions and
Yeah.
just it
I've been studying. I brought a book to study too, like on the
good.
plane and during my downtime, but
Awesome. So
yeah.
are you gonna work in cardiac, do you think?
I would like to. I
Yeah.
think the challenging part with like being a new nurse is you're kind of stuck on like a med surge floor, like the
Right.
basic,
Right.
and then eventually you can work your way up into those specialties after you do your time because you
Yeah,
still have a lot to learn as a new
for
grad.
sure.
But I would love to do that. I'm still open. I knew I had to go in that direction. I Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. I thought
I
about the nurse practitioner route too, and
do
maybe
it.
being a specialist because I love genetics and I also have this condition called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome.
Oh,
And that's something that isn't fully understood. And so I think to be a nurse practitioner that focuses in genetics and the Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome and dysautonomia is needed and also something that I'm passionate about and I've done a lot of research on. And
yeah.
so we'll see what happens one day at
No,
a
I figured
time.
you would be awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
So what kind of advice would you give people, like, especially when it comes to like the medical stuff and the gaslighting and how do you advocate for, how did you decide, okay, I'm going to advocate for myself. This is not acceptable. I'm not going to just
Well, I was worried
listen.
for my life, and my
Yeah,
kids needed a mom.
right.
I didn't want if I left, they wouldn't have had anyone, and so that was a big driving point for me. So it kind of started with that, but I had to educate myself. So in my book Garden of Blue, I have a chapter about that, how to advocate for yourself.
Okay,
But
good.
really, it starts with educating yourself. So,
Yeah.
like one thing I find, because I also do hair, and so I'd have I keep getting mixed up between saying patient and client,
Oh,
but
that's okay.
having a client in my chair at the
Yeah.
salon, and they'd always ask me about that kind of stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, what'd they say?" And they're like, "Oh, I can't remember the diagnosis." And I'm like, "What?" So that's something I see that's common in a lot of people is that they don't even know what their diagnosis is.
Right.
They don't know any of that stuff, and that's fine. They're not nurses
They
and
just trust.
they
Yeah.
blindly trust. And
Right.
so that's really important to educate yourself, take notes,
Yes.
research it because one of the statistics I found, which this is an old one from 2014, so I don't know what it is now, but it was that 1 in 20 are misdiagnosed. And that's a wild number if you think about it. And I have
Scary.
many of those. I was diagnosed with GERD and acid reflux instead
Right.
of getting my
Right.
pacemaker. So you want to also question the doctors
Which they
too.
never like. They are
Right.
not
They
into
don't.
being questioned,
But
but
you're allowed second
yep,
opinions. And actually,
exactly.
I have a friend named Kendra who is a good advocate and someone who I looked up to, who also kind of helped inspire some of the advocacy too. And one of the things she said to me was, doctors are like dating. You don't have to date the first doctor you see. Like,
Right.
and that was something I always kept in mind. Like, okay, this one's they're not gonna hear me, or they have poor
Right.
bedside manner, or whatever. Okay, you can find a new one.
Yes.
That's perfectly fine. And so starting with that education and then also I would get my medical records and I'd look through them because there's a lot of stuff people wouldn't tell me about. Like I found out I had my tubes tied and I found out one of my tubal clips was dislodged floating around. And
Really?
at one of my ER visits, I saw it in my
The
record.
no, yeah.
And they never told me, and so I got my records, I went through it, and because that's what I always do after a visit because, again, I don't trust.
Right,
And
right.
so I go to my doctor and I was like, "Hey, can we deal with this?" And so she was like, "Yeah, let's do a search and rescue." And they went in and took the clip out and,
So
did
it
a
was just floating
tubal.
around.
Yeah.
Oh my
So, but
god.
I wouldn't have known if I didn't
Yeah.
read my records.
Right.
So that transparency has to be there and it's important and we have access to that. A lot of
Right.
people don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, it's so true. That's what
Yeah.
makes it so scary, and people just don't know that they can advocate for themselves, and they
Yeah.
do that blind trust, like you said, where I'm completely out. I'm like you. I don't trust shit. I don't. I want to know everything,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna ask somebody else, and I will question them too. And but
They don't like it. But if they don't,
yeah,
then get a new one
right,
because
right.
you
You're
should.
interviewing
Like,
them. Yeah, you're
exactly.
yeah.
I've had some doctors that were really cool about it. Like I had one doctor, I was trying to educate him on dysautonomia, and he was so cool about it. And he had me send him stuff. I emailed him some
Wow.
information. And later on down the road, I found out he actually eventually became a specialist in that. Because I was
Really?
going to have to leave the state. And then one day I heard there was like a POTS clinic and he was leading it. And I was like, whoa, I told him about that.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that's cool. And that makes an amazing doctor.
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing.
Right.
And there's a joke about like the doctors Googling it and oh my God, that's a good thing too.
Right. Right.
Because I just got done with the nursing program and did we ever talk about Ehlers Danlos syndrome? Not once.
Right.
So if a doctor has to Google it, I respect that.
Right. Right.
And it's the
That they're at least
doctors,
educating themselves on it.
yes.
Yeah.
It's the doctors who don't know about it and who dismiss you that are arrogant or don't want to work with you and that just, no thanks. Like you can, again, like dating, you can move on.
Yep. Exactly. Gosh, how rough was that going through open heart? Like, did you have
It,
people to help you or?
it was rough. So, yes and no. So, the first time they say you're not supposed to have someone leave you alone for like the first like week or two. And I had someone that was supposed to be there and then they bailed on me. And so I'm like at the time that first one my kids were still kind of young
Yeah.
and it was really rough because I felt kind of on my own, but at the same time like I was dealing with depression too. I've always dealt with depression,
Right.
PTSD, so that didn't help and my sleep schedule was all crazy and
Right. Were you in a lot of pain?
oh, so
Yeah.
much pain. So and back then, like they give you all the meds.
Right.
And I'm fortunate to not like them. So I've never had to worry
Thankfully.
about that.
Yeah.
But fast forward to my next open heart surgery where in Florida the pain meds were, they don't want to prescribe them.
Yeah.
On the second day, they were wanting me to be on Tylenol.
Oh.
And again, I don't know if it's because of my age or how I look having tattoos, but Tylenol after having your sternum sawed open is not sufficient.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time the person that I was with at the time, they left for the day, and I was like, I said I don't want to be left alone because I was afraid to not be able to advocate for myself
Right.
with the meds, or if
Right.
something were to happen, I
Yeah.
wanted someone there. And of course, they left. So I'm there and I remember they set the food tray right in front of me and I was sitting here in front of my food tray literally just crying into my food because I was in so much pain that I couldn't
Couldn't
lift
even
my
lift your
arm to
arm.
feed myself. And finally they came in and they're like, "Oh, what's wrong? You're not eating." And I was just like, "I'm in so much pain.
Right.
Like I can't move." And so, that's also where like in nursing, it's important to you have to get on top of pain.
For sure.
Like you're going to have a lot of problems if you don't. And
That's crazy though. Second day.
yeah.
Yikes.
And so they did help me out a little bit and then I just progressed so well that I was able to be kicked out the next day on the third day of open heart
What?
surgery because I did so well. And I was moving around and
Wow.
yeah, so that time around for that surgery, I kind of like, I wanted to not go through such a traumatic or difficult time like I did the first time. So I had all these boundaries with myself. Like I made sure to ask for help this time. I made
Yeah.
sure to have that support system ready, which,
Right.
sometimes it can be hard to ask for help.
Right. Yes.
And also what I did was I would not allow myself to like watch TV during the day until like evening or the sun came down because I didn't want to get my sleep cycle all screwed up and
Yeah.
I didn't want to get in this depressive mode. And
Which
so I
is
had,
easy to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had the lights, the blinds open in the room and
Right.
well lit. I had art and
So
books and
smart.
healthy stuff. And
Yeah.
it was such a big difference. And then another thing I did, which sounds silly, was like I was doing like squats before because I was like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna pre-train myself because I didn't want to get deconditioned too much. And I also
Right.
like, you can't like bend
Yeah.
over for a while. And you also have like muscles you don't even realize exist. So I like learned how to like squat down and so that way like when I was by myself,
Yeah.
I was at least like kind of
Right.
trained a little bit.
Right.
And so when the first thing you do is like you go from your doorstep to your mailbox to just eventually like to try to
See how you
walk
feel.
more and
Yeah.
catch your breath
Right.
and I felt like I was able to do those things a lot faster because I started, trying to pre-train for that and
Right.
condition myself for it so that way I wasn't just like my
Yeah.
baseline wasn't just from nowhere.
So smart.
Yeah, so it was a much different surgery and it went
Okay.
a lot better and I was really fortunate to not have any issues or
Did they help you with the
setbacks.
pain though, even after you told them, or
Um
did they just have they been treating everybody like they're a
a
seeker?
little bit. Yeah, I mean they did a little bit, but even when I was sent home, like I wasn't sent home really with anything.
Yeah.
Which I was okay with because that's really what gave me a lot of problems too was, the side effects of pain meds and
Right.
I'm always afraid of that too cuz that first one I remember having a patch on and I didn't know what the patch was. Well, guess what it was?
Fentanyl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember having like the package, and this was before I had, educated myself to where I am today.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. So I put this patch on day 3. And for whatever reason, it made me so sick. I don't know if I was like
Mm.
overdosing,
Yeah.
but I was holding like frozen peas to my face, and like my other side of my face was on like the cold bathroom floor. I was like throwing up, and then I had like
Oh.
the epiphany, like, oh my God, maybe it's the patch. So I
Yeah.
took it off and threw it away, and I Googled it, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely like night and day, the first one and the second one. But I didn't want to deal with that, and luckily, they
Right.
didn't send me home with that anyway. But
That's the only bad thing, especially in Florida, because there was such an issue, with all the
mhm.
rehabs and all those things and the
Around
opiate.
that time too,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But like even when I have a lot of autoimmune issues and like I'm in pain, like you
Oh,
name, but
yeah.
I've been in SVT plenty of times. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So I know what you're talking about. Thank God I've never had to worry about going through the surgeries
Yeah,
you have because that would probably scare the shit out of
not fun,
me.
but SVT, it is
It
scary.
is scary. It's
Yeah.
scary. But when I've been in pain, even here, I do sound like a seeker. Like and this is what I'll say. Like when it comes, because they'll give you like Tylenol first, and then they'll give you Toradol, and they'll give you
Mhm.
whatever. Just they'll keep going.
I think Toradol is what they gave
Yes,
me.
but I'll be like, and my husband will laugh too. But I'll be like, listen, I am a medical professional. I am not a seeker. I owned rehabs, everything else. I know only Dilaudid works for me.
Yeah,
And I think I mean, they'll usually give it to me. It
but
hasn't been an issue,
sometimes they
but I
don't.
think that they look at me like, yeah, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah,
But that's a problem
it
too
is
because so
such a
many people are
problem.
in pain and they do need help, but they look at everyone like a drug addict
They
now.
do, and being on the other side of the curtain as a nursing student, I saw that too, and I remember
Mhm.
seeing a young girl who was a patient, and she's very similar to me, similar issues, and I saw in her chart it said that she was drug seeking, and I was like, that is
See?
so wrong. And then
Yeah.
then it got to the point where she was like, I need morphine is the only thing that helps my migraines.
Right.
And as soon as we leave the room, the nurse I was shadowing, the charge nurse, they were like, oh, there it is. And I'm like, this poor girl's not going to get the
She's just
help she
telling you what
needs.
works.
And that's also why I want to kind of do the nurse practitioner route because I'm big on the genetics, and you can do a genetic panel and do the
Yes.
pharmacogenomics where you can actually get that paper and hopefully show, like, this, I don't
Right.
metabolize this, or
Yes.
this doesn't work for me, and kind of show them the proof
Yeah.
because I don't know what else can we do,
Right.
you
I
know?
know. I know because they just unfortunately with everything that's happened, they look at people like that.
Yeah.
And then
And
they become I think they get desensitized too to where
they
they just think
do,
everyone
but still.
like that nurse you were working with when maybe she was just advocating for herself.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. One of the things they say is if you hear hooves, think horse, not
Mhm.
zebra. That's what they say in the medical industry
Mhm.
because it's going to be a horse. Like quit looking for the zebras. But
Right.
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, they're known as the zebras, and that's where they're getting dismissed or
Yeah.
neglected because they're looking for the horse.
Right.
So that's kind of where you have to also be open to where it could be a freaking zebra.
Right. Right.
Make
Right.
sure it's not,
But
you
then that's
know.
where it's so important for you as the patient to unfortunately have to educate them.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they listen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what makes it tough too. That's actually the next book I want to work on. I don't am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
I'm
gonna
like, yeah, of course.
it's gonna be called Unfucking the Healthcare System.
Really?
And I want to kind of dissect all of those different issues, and I want to include patient guides to where if a patient does go to the ER, and it is, especially if it's something rare like mast cell or
Right.
dysautonomia or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, they
Right.
can show this patient guide that has the rationale, the pathophysiology, the
Oh, I love
labs,
that.
and then it kind of will bridge the gap between the patient who's not a medical, expert, and
Yeah.
then the actual medical expert who might not know about that
Right.
weird or rare thing.
Right.
And that's something just to kind of help also with people to be able to advocate for themselves, or even the medical professionals to kind of see things through a different lens, the things that get
Right.
missed.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And I think it's important too for patients to know, like, even if you are advocating,
mhm.
for yourself and you get like a shit ton of pushback from them, like, don't give
Yeah.
up. Go to the go to the next one, interview the next
Yeah.
doctor, the next medical professional, because you will get that, because there's a lot of arrogance,
There is. Yeah.
and they
And
can't get past
I think
themselves.
it's important too, though, for the patient to also, like, you have to give yourself a fighting chance.
Hmm.
So that's the thing too. Like, I think that bridge that I was saying, like, if the patient is eating a bag of Doritos and Coca-Cola every day and like
Right.
not exercising, and like, that's where I think the frustration can happen, because it's like, well, you have to, again, we all have to have accountability.
Accountability,
So
yes.
that's why I don't drink. That's why I exercise. That's why I look for clean ingredients and try to,
Hmm.
the self-care is so important.
Right.
And, I've been the patient who didn't drink water all day while I worked, on my
Sure.
feet at the salon for
Right.
16 hours, so you're going to have an issue
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you do
Do you
that
talk
for.
about some of that in your book too? Like,
Yeah, so my second book that just came out last month, it's called
okay.
Botanical Rebellion. It's
Okay.
Apothecary Guide to Nature's Alchemy.
Okay.
And it's really whimsical, but there's science in there,
Yeah.
and it's very colorful because I do photography too. And so I created all these recipes, and there's a lot of botanical and adaptogens education. I talk
Wow.
about some genetic stuff like the MTHFR mutation.
Do you have that
And
too? I have that too.
I do. Well, 40% of
Both,
the population has
yeah,
it.
both variants.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know about that
I
either.
know.
So I talk about that and dyes, and like, you don't need food dyes. Like, you can use butterfly pea flower that's naturally blue, or
Right.
hibiscus or beetroot,
Oh, you have all that in there.
Oh
That's
yeah. So
awesome.
there's recipes, mocktails, there's,
We'll make sure that kind of puts that in the description of the
yeah. I'll
video. So
send you the PDF for those
okay,
too, so you can
awesome.
check them out.
Awesome.
But
Wow, you're kind of an overachiever. I love it.
well, that's that trauma.
Yes, yes, I love it.
I guess it's a healthy defense mechanism,
Yes.
like, I try to make sure I have some balance, but I think
Balance.
a lot of that comes from just, trying to keep my mind busy, because I do have that side
Depression.
of
Yep.
depression and PTSD,
And
and
that idle time, that'll get you.
yeah, so,
Yep.
and I can't watch a movie or TV because my mind is
Still
I'm thinking
going.
about other things. So
Yeah.
having like a second thing, that's part of the ADHD too. Having
Mm-hmm.
a second thing, like whether I'm writing or working on
Right.
something,
At the same time.
then my brain's busy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, with
Wow.
the Botanical Rebellion, it's really heavy on the self-care, because that's where a lot of people, they neglect themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or, we don't do the self-care. And that was me especially. I did not self-care
Well,
at all.
you grew up in an alcoholic home, like
Hmm.
all the things. So you were probably never taught that.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That wasn't a priority. It was
Right.
like, hey, let's just survive.
Oh, yeah. I've always been in
Yeah.
survival mode.
Yeah.
And that was another thing where I got to the point where I, well, what can I do to make my quality of life better, especially if these doctors aren't going to listen to me?
Right.
Like, am I eating food that's not good? Am I not?
Right.
That is true. I was staying up late. I was an insomniac. Like, so you have to fix all of those things to give yourself that fighting chance. And
Right.
so that's why, the hustle culture, that's such a big thing, but we have to slow down sometimes. We
You
have to
do.
get in nature, drink some freaking water,
Right, right,
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
And not drinking too. I started to play around with the teas and
Mhm.
botanicals and make some fun, like pretty whimsical
Oh,
stuff. And so I wanted to
fun.
share that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
also
gosh.
with
Love
depression,
it.
like just adding glimmers to your life,
Mhm.
it is nice. It might be bougie, but it's nice feeling for me to be able to make this beautiful, fun drink that's actually going to benefit me and
Right.
romanticizing life. And it's something that's been healing. And so I wanted to pass that on and share that,
I
make it
love
fun
that.
and lighten
No,
it
that's
up.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's important to have fun things like that because
Yeah.
when you want to change your life and you want to start taking care of yourself, you have to break a lot of habits, like
Oh,
the old
yeah.
bad habits, and that's
Yeah.
not always easy.
It's not. And that was a thing I struggled with in the beginning. Like I'd go to the gym and, have like a week or two where I was awesome. And then as soon as you mess up, okay, game over. Now I'm back to just
Yeah,
not.
exactly. Yeah.
And that's where you have to give yourself grace. Like it's going to
Yes.
take time. And that's where I really started to like focus on discipline. Cause discipline, if you lack discipline, you're gonna really struggle. And I definitely lacked discipline. And when I started to be more disciplined,
Mhm.
that's where you see the results.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what the switch was really. I think part of it was thinking of that as my medicine, looking
Mhm.
at it that way.
Right.
So like going on a run, I hated it. I didn't want to go on a run. That's torture. But
Right.
I made myself go because I was like, this is my medicine. If I don't take my
Yeah.
medicine,
Right.
and so I would go on my runs, and now I love it. I love going on a run.
See,
It,
that's
and I enjoy it. I'm
awesome.
like, oh, I'm gonna go on a run tomorrow morning while
It's
while
one
I'm
thing I
here.
don't think I could ever learn to love is running.
I said that
I'll
too.
walk fast, I'll do all the things, but running, it just sounds dreadful.
It can be, especially in
Yeah.
Florida, but
Yeah, 'cause you have all that heat.
but I do other stuff too. Like I like kayaking, like I'll switch it up, just being active in general,
Right.
and moving your body. Like it's that kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it type of thing. And
Right.
even with your mind, just like reading or just doing any kind of
Yes.
thing to like, get out of the digital world we live
Yeah.
in.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So do you think all these changes that you've made and just going so far towards all the positive, is it helping you choose better relationships like with your partner or
Um, yes. I would say recently, yes.
Okay.
So I did recently go through a breakup.
Okay.
That was tough because it was like graduating this nursing program and having my second book come out while going through a breakup.
Oh,
And that's kind of something that's always been hard for me is like trying to celebrate these things while
right.
also going through heartache and grief.
Right. You don't
Um,
get to just concentrate on your win.
right.
Yeah.
But, after my previous relationship, I was in therapy and I continue to stay in therapy. And I think I'm in a place now where I can use that discernment and I am
Mm.
self-aware. So now I can recognize that stuff in other people.
Right.
Even like with friendships, like there's been times where I've met new people and I had this one person who was kind of love bombing and just like blowing me up. And even at one point they're like, I miss you. And I was like, well, I've never even really hung out with this person for them to say they miss me. And like we had,
Yeah.
and so that's where I was able to see like, okay, this is that typical, this is just like this friend and that friend that I got rid of,
Right.
to where they latch on and that's that dependency. And I self-abandoned because I
Mhm.
want to help them. They wanted my
Right.
help. And that's where I had to,
They need me. You want to be the savior.
yeah, and I set
Yes.
that
Yeah.
boundary, and that's where it's really cool to kind of recognize that moment where
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh wow, I did it.
Right.
I
Right.
overcame that." And so I
Yes.
I think I'm getting there. Like I definitely want to be very cautious with, the dating world, and there's no rush for that. And the next relationship I do end up in, like you have to check all of the boxes in the checklist that
Hell
I
yeah,
made
you
and
do.
some that I
Yeah.
didn't even know existed. And you have, again, I have that checklist for everyone. You have to have accountability,
Right.
communication skills, respect,
Right.
and
Those are
so
the big ones.
yeah. And so I think I'm pretty in tune now with like the narcissism and the love bombing and stuff.
Right. I think you're due for a good one.
Mm,
Fingers crossed, right?
I hope so, but if not, like, I'm okay at
You're
now, like,
content. Yeah.
where I think I can be by myself, and that's what makes it hard too is, you know, I'm such a lover and I'm such a hopeless romantic and I want to
Mhm.
pour my love into someone
Right.
and when I love fully. And you really like when you have that in you, you want to give it away.
Right.
But I've always given it to the wrong
Wrong
people.
people.
And I recently had someone reach out to me. She's into horoscope stuff and
Mhm.
it was funny because she was like, "Is your Venus in Virgo or something?" I think that's what it was. I was like, "Let me look." And I was like, "You're right. How did you know?" And she's like, "Well, I am too." And she was like, and again, I'm not like the biggest in the, horoscope and stuff,
Yeah.
but
I don't
it
know much
was
about
it
it.
was fitting. So basically what she said was, you people like us, we are the healers and people will love us and they will take all of that from us
Mhm.
until we are empty and then they will leave.
Right.
And I was like, dang, that's spot on. And so
Yeah.
whether that's the sun and the moon or not,
Right.
it still applied to me. And to be mindful of that, like I'm not going to be another lesson.
Right.
I want you to come with the lessons learned where we can grow
Grow
together
together.
or
Yes.
like goodbye. Like I
Right.
am good on
No,
that.
that's just awesome that you can recognize that now and you have the strength to do that
Yeah.
because it is easy to be a
But it
doormat
is
for people.
yeah, but there's a balance too. Like you also, at least for me, like I can't be too like, oh, everyone's terrible, don't trust anyone. Like there's really a balance in that. So,
Yeah.
you have to be able to use your judgment, but also, give other people grace too.
Right.
And again, communicate because of course no one's ever going to be perfect. Even like your bestest friend in the whole world or your
Right.
family,
Right.
they might cross a boundary or
Yeah, for
cross a
sure.
line and
They're going
it's
to. It's just
how they deal with it.
yes.
And so that's the thing too, like, if I'm in another relationship, I'm not getting serious until we have our first fight. I wanna see how you act.
Right.
I wanna see how
That's so
where your
smart.
anger takes you
Right.
and how you treat me. Like, are you gonna still be respectful during our fight?
Right.
Like, those are things we don't look at. And instead, it's like when you're dating, you're like, oh, he's tall, or
Yeah,
they're,
he's so
have a good
sweet. Yeah.
job, and we listen to the same music, and blah blah
Right.
blah. Cool.
Right.
You can have that in friends. Like,
Yeah. Everybody has a honeymoon phase.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
all like aesthetic, like not foundational
Right.
stuff. So, like, we need to be looking at partners and seeing if they have the basic tools
Right.
and self awareness themselves. And
So you have
that's,
to really watch out for that narcissism.
yeah, because I think that's something I've always kind of been drawn
Yeah.
to because, again, because of my childhood, that
Mhm.
that trauma bond is something that's always kind of continued on. And so I do not want that again,
Right.
and
But
not
at least
just.
the thing is, it's so awesome that you know now.
But I also have to take accountability myself
Mhm.
and my own part in it is that
Right.
I allowed
You
that.
allowed it.
I allowed it.
So you probably had to go through periods of like giving yourself grace too, and like forgiving yourself that
That
you.
was the hardest thing
Yes, I
ever.
see. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because shame is always going to be stifling. And that was something I struggled with deeply. And that goes kind of back to that victim mentality
Right.
mindset. If you have shame, it's hard to, it's really hard to place to heal from. And I
Right.
definitely carry that. I definitely had a hard time with forgiveness for myself. And so that was something I also worked on in therapy. I think I even
Mhm.
took I saw a forgiveness class that was local and that I even took myself and my kids to like, hey, let's learn about forgiveness. And we talked about who are you forgiving? Is it a person? Is it yourself? And it's harder when it's yourself because if it's somebody else, like you don't have to even talk to them to forgive them. That's a for
Right.
you thing. Like I'm forgiving you for me to kind of cut that
Right.
off. But when you're forgiving yourself, it's difficult.
Right. Oh yeah, it is. Absolutely.
And that's part of that, like you said, like giving yourself grace.
I know.
And,
Because we want when you come from abuse and things like that too, you just blame yourself because
yeah,
it's always your
I
fault.
always blame myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's hard to get past.
It really is. Yeah.
But you can do it. I mean,
You
you're
can.
proof.
And one
You're
of the
doing it.
things too with therapy was the EMDR.
Mhm.
And that was something that's helpful too, because you go back to that trigger and you
Right.
almost reparent yourself in a way. So you recognize the trigger. For me, my root issue or my root narrative, I guess, was that I don't matter. And so, we went back to a time in the past where my dad, who was, 6'4", was yelling and he was hitting himself in the head. And it scared me, and I remember my legs shaking, and so what we decided, what I felt in that moment was that I don't matter, because why would,
Mhm.
when someone's treating you this certain way, it makes you feel like you don't matter.
Right.
And that's something that translated into all of those relationships that
Because
I
he was
had.
he was one of the most important people in your life, and you should
Yeah.
have been able to trust him. And
And I felt that in all of my relationships,
yes,
and in other situations too, of course. And so when you're able to recognize your trigger, you're able, I'm able to catch myself and go, wait a second, how am I feeling? When did I feel
mhm,
this last? Okay, I'm feeling like I don't matter. And then you correct it. I'm able to reparent myself in a way, or whatever you want to
right,
call it, and
right,
give myself that grace.
yeah,
And I'm able to move through triggers instead of letting the trigger take over. I can take over it,
right,
and I'm able to say, okay, well, to myself, like, kind of talk myself out of it, and now I can prevent a depressive episode
right,
or a reaction or whatever, and I'm able to get through it. And that's the coolest feeling ever, to be like,
yeah,
oh my
right,
gosh,
right,
I
right.
did
Especially if you
that.
can like avoid those depressive states, because you're still
Yeah,
gonna get depressed. I mean, it's chemical. You can still get
exactly. Oh,
depressed,
I do,
but
but
yeah. But to be
yeah,
able to talk yourself through it, it
yeah.
avoids that way that's down slope.
So much.
Yeah,
And even if I do have like a random moment where I'm feeling a low or feeling kind of depressed, I just go to my toolkit. What do I need to do? Should I book another therapy appointment? Do I need to go
right,
outside? Do I need an actual break? Am I going too
right,
hard? Like, usually going in nature or having like a self-care day, like, or talking to someone, like, you have to build your toolkit.
right.
And I think I have a pretty decent one at this point, to where I can recognize how I'm feeling and navigate it. And that's
I
really
wonder if,
important.
like, for me, I have struggled with depression, like deep depression, for a long, long time since I was younger. But I can feel it. Like for my husband, he doesn't like get depressed, but I can feel, like, I can wake up and I'm like, I'm
It's
depressed.
here.
It's here. Like, right. And if you don't use tools, like you said, like where I'll just, I don't really feel like doing anything today. I just want to lay on the couch. I'll do what, but recognizing that is huge,
It
because
is.
it can be a day, or if you don't recognize it and use some tools, it could be weeks.
And that was the worst. Like, it
Yeah.
was the worst to like cancel your plans. And there were times where I wouldn't even touch my phone.
Same.
I would just disappear. And that's also, I think, why I keep myself busy. But again, that could be a bad thing too. So I
Right.
had to like figure that out. So like for me, if I am laying around resting, like something that should be healthy, my mind is like, "Oh, you're depressed." And that's
Right.
where it's terrible, but like sometimes I have to almost like plan my self-care day.
Yeah.
Like, this day is my self-care day, and
Right.
I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I'll like get a massage, go to the beach, have my smoothie,
Right.
or whatever I'm doing. And then I'm allowing myself to rest. And it sounds terrible to have to like allow that, but
No, but it's reality. Just how,
mhm.
most of your life you always felt like, well, I don't matter. Then you
Yeah.
then you become an overachiever, because you want them to look at you like, oh, look at me now. Look, I do matter. See what I did now? And you just keep
Called
doing.
out.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I live it too, so I know.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, it's just because you want to be seen. Everybody wants to be
Yeah.
seen.
And
You
it's weird though, because when I am seen, I'm kind of
right,
uncomfortable,
right.
which
Yeah.
is interesting.
It is. It's crazy.
It's like, you can see me, but don't.
Yeah, but don't.
Let
You
me
can
find.
acknowledge. That's fine. Okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
not too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, we are similar in those
Yes.
ways. So
Yes.
that's another thing I do too. Like in the morning, I make my bed because I'm like, I don't want to get back in it. I don't want that
Yeah.
clean, neat environment.
Right.
But yeah, I do need to be better about having that rest and downtime without, being hard on myself, but at least I'm recognizing it and working towards that.
Right.
But that's been the key so far for me, is to just kind of plan for it, because
Mm-hmm.
then, having that last minute like free time,
Yeah.
I just cannot just check out and
You don't know what to
lounge.
do with yourself. Yeah. Yeah. So the kids are doing good now?
Yeah, they're all
Okay.
grown, which is so weird, but they're doing great. Super proud of them. I always joke like their credit score is better than mine, and that's how you know you did a good job.
Yeah.
So,
Are they still living at home?
no, so this is like the first time I've been like an empty nester, and I haven't really even experienced it quite yet because it's still so new. So I haven't quite processed it yet.
Girl, you and I both, 30 years Until just like 2 months ago, because my youngest, you met Kenna, right? Did you meet
Oh,
Kenna
no,
yet?
not yet.
Okay, you'll meet her. But she's my youngest, and she's 24. She still lived at home
Yeah.
until like a year and a half ago. But we had our 10-year-old grandson that lived here for dance,
Oh,
that lived
yeah.
with us full time. So just 2 months ago is the first time in 30 years
Yeah.
that I
So
have
it's still
no
new for
children.
you.
Oh, girl, I'm like, am I sad? Am I happy? Oh,
Oh,
we
it's a
can go
roller
do whatever
coaster.
we want. Like, but then you're like, but no one's here. Like, I don't even want this big
Yeah,
house
walking
anymore.
around and
Yeah, yeah.
nothing
You don't
and
know what to do
like,
with yourself. It's a
yeah.
real thing.
The other day I was just laying in my closet on the floor,
Yeah,
like on my phone. Like,
I
I'm just
know.
like, this is crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
But it's supposed to be like, I guess you should be happy and you should be proud. But then
yeah,
selfishly, you're kind of like, well, I don't know if I like this.
it is weird.
Yeah.
That was another thing too, like to be mindful of, like when my kids were getting older and they needed me less, like I'm such a giver and like
Yeah.
back to that self-abandonment type thing. Like, I think that's something I had struggled with in previous relationships where that replaced it. Okay, so I'm going to make you breakfast every day and lunch every day because they didn't need it anymore. And
Right.
so that's something that I'm like ready for this new chapter to be like, you make me
Yeah,
breakfast.
absolutely.
You
Yes.
make me breakfast.
Yes. Yes.
So I
Good.
gotta add that to the
Right.
list.
So if you were to talk to your younger self, Misty at 15-ish,
Hmm.
what would you say? What kind
Yikes.
of words of encouragement would you have given her? Wish that somebody would have told you.
Ugh. That's a tough one because specifically at 15, that was a really tough age. I think at that time I was truly considering ending my life.
Okay.
And I I really just never had that self-worth, and back to like my core belief was that I don't matter. I
Right.
think it would have to be something along the lines like just keep pushing, you matter, and
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's why the tissues are here.
Yeah, it is.
I use humor as coping
Yeah.
too. Yeah, and just to, believe in yourself really, because that was a thing I struggled with for years and decades to come, was
Right.
just not having that self-worth,
Right.
not believing in myself, and just feeling like, what's the point? It's never going to get better. And
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a true like quick little thing to say, maybe a hug too.
Right. Right.
And another thing too is like no one's going to save you but
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Right.
And it's funny because when I first did my photography business at like 19, my little like motto was, me against the world,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't necessarily like the best thing. But at the same time, like, yes, ask for help, like support and community, blah blah blah. But
Right.
it kind of is in a way. Like there's no knight in shining armor. There
Right.
could be maybe for some people, but like at the end of the day, like we really got to
Right.
do that for ourselves. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
was something I kind of always hoped for, was that someone would rescue me.
Yeah.
Someone would love me the way my parents should have, or my dad should
Right.
have, or
And it's so hard when you're a teenager, and even, I know there's a lot of teenagers that contemplate suicide. I
mhm.
did too when I was a teenager, and it's just, you feel like because you're underage, you can't make your own decisions. There's all these things, and you just feel so lost.
Yeah.
Like, I remember
Oh
just always
yeah.
feeling so lost, and
Very.
that you don't matter.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it's ever going to change,
Yeah.
but it does. It can.
And that's kind of something I use also as like a reflective tool, is that 15-year-old version of me like
Mm-hmm.
would be very proud of myself.
Yeah,
And that's something we have to sometimes take in or consider, especially if you struggle with that.
sure.
That you have done it, you're doing the work, you're
Right.
continuing to do it, and you're making the
Mm-hmm.
younger version of yourself proud. I would have been someone who would have saved that younger version of me,
Right. Yes.
and that's something that's a good feeling and a good thing to, you have to appreciate that
Mm-hmm.
and have that gratitude sometimes, like, because we were talking about shame earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Patting myself on the back is hard to do because then
Yeah.
it, like, and for a lot of people, because oh, you're egocentric, or you're
Right.
narcissistic or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Right.
we're kind of taught not to be
Yeah.
proud of ourselves.
Right.
And I think it's important to be proud of yourself
Mm-hmm.
sometimes,
Yeah.
So I
is.
try to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
hey, look at me. I would be
Right.
because I wanted to write a book forever. And actually, that first book, Garden of Blue, has writing from when I was 15 in there. I
Wow.
collected that. I had my writing for so long, and even just like Facebook memories from 10 years ago, I was asking
Yeah.
about writing books and stuff, and I did it. So it's cool to like
Right.
think like, just stick to
Stick
it
to it.
and
Yes.
keep pushing, and even those impossible things that seem like wouldn't be possible, or dreams that maybe seem too big, you just keep chasing it, because
Right.
if I didn't, like, that was something I dreamt of for, I'm trying to calculate 15 to 41, but for that long that I wanted to write a
Write a book.
book. And
Yeah.
so, if in the grand scheme of things, that goal took a million years to do, but you just
Right.
keep, time's going to keep
But you
passing.
did
You
it.
just do it anyway,
Yeah.
even if it takes you 20 years.
Right. And even like at 15, life is miserable. You feel like you don't even want to live. If people would just like, and it's so hard when you're in it, just think for a minute that this will pass.
Yeah,
These are just moments where life kind of
exactly.
freaking sucks, but you stick with it. Keep
You don't know what's
going.
around the
Yeah,
corner, and
exactly.
that's the thing too. It's like, I think about that all the time, like if I would have ended my life then or whatever,
Right.
or at a different time,
Yeah.
I would have missed all of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's important to consider that, because life's always going to be up and down.
Of
And when
course.
you have that low moment, it sucks, but there's going to be beautiful moments ahead too,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to have bad moments again,
Right.
and that's kind of back to that
Unfortunately,
resiliency.
that's life. Yeah.
Yeah, and recognizing that too, because otherwise that victim mentality or shame, you're going to beat
Yeah.
yourself up. It's just not going to take you anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Doing amazing.
Oh, thank you.
No, that's awesome. And you just graduated, everything. God, there's so many good things coming for you.
Yeah, I got to take a
Another
break from
book.
school though.
Yeah.
Try to just like, just enjoy life and kind of see where it takes me. That's kind of what this new chapter is about. Just I've been more about like trusting the process. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing for me was I've always been very planner. Like, I plan it, things must go this way. I'm going to do this to take me here, and then it falls apart and my world blows up in my face, or
Right.
we got the divorces, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like the plans never really worked out. So I think it's good to have goals. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm trying to look at life with like a loose grip
Don't be
and
so
open.
stringent about all
Yeah.
that.
And
Yeah.
just see what happens. It's not happening, to me, it's happening for me. This is taking me to something. My whole life blew up, but guess what? There's something else coming.
Right.
So I'm trying to look
Right.
at it in that mindset
Mm-hmm.
and just, enjoy it and kind of see where it takes me a little bit, which is new for me.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart. You're going to be fine.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing with us. I'm
Thank
so glad
you.
you came.
I am too. Thanks for having me. It's
I
so
loved
nice to
it.
meet you too.
I'm turning inside out.